New York City, 2025, a city of contradictions, a city of grit and glamour. And now, a city caught in the crosshairs of an improbable political alliance. Donald Trump, the city's most infamous son, and Eric Adams, its current mayor, have struck a deal. It is a pact shrouded in controversy, fueled by ambition and shadowed by the spectre of justice. On the surface, they are an odd couple. Trump, the brash billionaire, and Adams, the former police captain, one a symbol of wealth and privilege, the other a product of the city's working class. Yet beneath the veneer of their differences lies a shared hunger for power, a common thread of ambition that binds them together in this unlikely partnership. Their alliance has sent shockwaves through the city's political landscape. It has become a Rorschach test for New Yorkers, reflecting their deepest fears and anxieties. Some see it as a betrayal, a Faustian bargain that will come at a steep price. Others view it as a necessary evil, a pragmatic solution to a complex problem. The truth, as always, is far more nuanced. This is not a story of good versus evil, but rather a study in the complexities of power. A tale of two men, each driven by their own demons, who find themselves bound together in a pact that will forever alter the fate of New York City. The ink on the deal was barely dry before the whispers began. Rumors of a quid pro quo, of justice being traded for political expediency. The details, when they emerged, were even more shocking than the speculation. Trump's Justice Department, in a move that stunned legal experts, had agreed to drop bribery and conspiracy charges against Mayor Adams. The price of his freedom, the implementation of Trump's draconian immigration policies in the heart of New York City. It was a deal with the devil, and Adams, it seemed, had willingly made it. The charges against him, stemming from his time as Brooklyn Borough President, had been hanging over his head like a sword of Damocles. The threat of prosecution, the possibility of prison, was a constant source of anxiety. Now, with a stroke of a pen, Trump had lifted that burden, but at what cost? The agreement, shrouded in legalese, was a masterpiece of political maneuvering. It allowed Adams to claim victory, to proclaim his innocence while simultaneously advancing Trump's agenda. The former president, never one to miss an opportunity, had found a way to enact his will on a city that had long since rejected him. The silence from City Hall was deafening. After the initial shock, a sense of disbelief settled over the city. How could Adams, a man who had built his career on fighting for the marginalized, align himself with Trump, a man who had made demonizing immigrants a cornerstone of his presidency? The answer, it seemed, lay in the murky waters of self-preservation. Adams, despite his protestations of innocence, knew that the charges against him were serious. The evidence, though circumstantial, was damning. Trump, with his penchant for vengeance, posed a clear and present danger. By acceding to his demands, Adams had bought himself some breathing room, but at what cost? The mayor's office, once a hive of activity, became a fortress of secrecy. Adams, normally a ubiquitous presence in the city, retreated from public view. When he did appear, it was under the watchful eyes of his handlers, his every word carefully scripted. The message was clear: do not criticize Trump, do not question the deal. The impact on New York City's immigrant communities was immediate and devastating. The city, long a beacon of hope for those fleeing persecution, was suddenly transformed into a hunting ground. ICE raids, once rare, became commonplace. Fear and paranoia gripped immigrant enclaves, as families lived in constant fear of being torn apart. Adams's compliance with Trump's deportation agenda was swift and brutal. A leaked memo revealed plans to allow ICE agents unfettered access to public schools, hospitals, and even places of worship. The city's sanctuary city status, once a source of pride, was effectively nullified. Stories of families being separated, of dreams being shattered, became all too common. The city's social safety net, already strained, was pushed to the breaking point. The human cost of Adams' deal was being measured in the tears of mothers, the despair of fathers, and the shattered innocence of children. The backlash was swift and fierce. Protests erupted across the city as New Yorkers took to the streets to denounce the deal and demand accountability. City council members, once allies of the mayor, openly criticized his actions. Accusations of betrayal, of selling out the city's most vulnerable residents, filled the air. The city, once united in its defiance of Trump, was now bitterly divided. Adams's approval ratings plummeted, as even his most ardent supporters struggled to reconcile his actions with his rhetoric. The man who had promised to be a different kind of mayor, a champion of the people, had seemingly morphed into the very thing he had vowed to fight against. The city's newspapers, once cheerleaders for the new administration, were now filled with scathing editorials and damning exposés. The New York Times, in a blistering front-page article, accused Adams of sacrificing the city's soul on the altar of political expediency. The Village Voice, known for its progressive leanings, called for the mayor's resignation. The alliance between Trump and Adams, born of political opportunism, had unleashed a torrent of unintended consequences. New York City, once a symbol of resistance to Trumpism, was now caught in its web. The city's fate, it seemed, was inextricably linked to that of the former president. Trump, despite his legal troubles and dwindling political capital, still cast a long shadow over American politics. His ability to sow chaos, to exploit divisions, remained undiminished. In Adams, he had found a willing accomplice, a man whose ambition outweighed his principles. The former president, and never one to shy away from the spotlight, reveled in his newfound influence. He boasted about his deal with Adams, claiming it as a victory over the radical left. New York City, once a source of frustration, had become his latest conquest. As the city grappled with the fallout from the deal, Adams found himself increasingly isolated. His inner circle, once a source of strength, had become a chorus of doubt. His closest advisors, fearing for their own reputations, began to distance themselves. The mayor, once a master of navigating the city's treacherous political waters, was now adrift. The weight of his decision, the sheer magnitude of its consequences, began to wear on him. The once ebullient mayor, known for his infectious smile and boundless energy, seemed to age before the city's eyes. The toll of leadership, the burden of his secret deal, had taken its toll. He tried to justify his actions, to convince himself that he had made the right decision. He clung to the belief that he had saved himself, that he had preserved his ability to govern. But deep down, he knew the truth. He had made a deal with the devil, and the devil was now calling in his due. The alliance between Trump and Adams was more than just a political pact. It was a moral reckoning for New York City. It forced the city to confront uncomfortable truths about itself, about its values, and about the limits of its compassion. The city that never sleeps, the city that had always prided itself on its diversity and its resilience, was now facing an existential crisis. Could it survive this latest challenge? Could it retain its soul in the face of such darkness? The answer, as always, lay with its people. The spirit of New York City had always resided in its streets, in its neighborhoods, in the hearts of its citizens. It was a spirit forged in adversity, tempered by hardship, and fueled by an unwavering belief in the promise of a better tomorrow. The story of Donald Trump and Eric Adams is a cautionary tale. It is a reminder that power, even when wielded with the best of intentions, can be a corrupting force. It is a story about the choices we make, the compromises we are willing to accept, and the price we pay for our ambitions. In the end, both men would pay a price for their alliance. Trump, already facing a slew of legal challenges, would find himself further mired in controversy. His legacy, already tarnished, would be forever stained by his pact with Adams. Adams, his political career in shambles, would be left to grapple with the consequences of his actions. The city he had sworn to serve, the city he loved, would bear the scars of his deal for generations to come. The true cost of their alliance, however, would be measured in something far more profound: the erosion of trust, the deepening of divisions, and the loss of innocence of a city that had always believed in its ability to overcome any obstacle.